I just can't stop thinking about those root trees. I find it hard to believe that there's a part 2 to this. I think I said it last time. It's like the mystery is solved. What more could there be? I'd love to see the secret roottrees. Oh, just continue? It just goes to part 2, does it? Immediately? Huh. No, I still think this is the first mystery. Actually, that's locked in now. There are still some of these that I don't have locked in, and I don't know if I can now. I think I need to go to here, start a new game, Root Tree Mania. Find out what happens to the infamous family in a whole new mystery. Make sure you've tied up any loose ends before starting. The only loose ends I have remaining is I don't know the wives of Elias C., Edward, and Miracle. That's about it. The loose ends I tied up yesterday. Where could the mystery even go from here? Oh. Oh no. You.
Hi.
You're
I'm
Clark.
Probably not who you expected to be knocking, but life's funny sometimes.
Yeah. Life's funny sometimes.
You've done well staying anonymous. It took us a while to track you down. A lot has happened in the last year. Far too much of it public. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes too. I never wanted to be president. I'm not great with stress. With my mother's deteriorating I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because part of the fallout of Sam's book is that everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Now that it's public knowledge that Plancet Trust covers any root tree despite their history with us, a lot of potential cousins have surfaced.
Yeah. Now we have to untangle whether you are or whether you ain't a root tree.
You may have seen that man on the cover of News Time. It was a disaster for us. And then Miracle went and made it all about himself. The long and short of it is, a lot of potential cousins just showed up. Sam's helping some of them, but she's not really going about it the right way. And she's not taking calls from anyone in the family. I let it slip through a mutual friend that I found you, and I was stopping in. It's manipulative, but I'm hoping she'll reach out to you. You can let her know I'm on her side. In the meantime, if you're willing, I can share our files with you. Pass them along to Sam if she reaches out. I'm genuinely hoping she'll realize I'm an ally. Feel free to do your own research. I've been told you enjoy things like this. To each their own.
Okay, so Joan Monroe, April Quaritch, Helen Lennon. Yeah. Just Lauren Roottree wrote the diary. Mother's deteriorating condition. She's still alive? Yeah. So this is where we lay at the moment. I think this is interesting. That there's still a portrait of Chris Rafferty to find. I need to be methodical, much more methodical than last time, because I need to reduce the number of times I ask my little ducky for help immensely. What should I call these? Portrait. And I will add a page for Clark Rafferty as well. And you can reorder pages. Chris comes alphabetically before. Should probably write them as Rafferty Clark and oh no. First 4 letters. We abbreviate. And also this should be Chris. Is there anything more than I can think about here? I don't think that he is. Zach. I will note him down as Maud Zach. Because if I'm perfectly methodical, then I shouldn't miss anything. Possible infidelity 1, 1921. So this means someone on the original tree, yes, fidelity to create this line. Infidelity 2, 1949. You can open this envelope after the whole family tree has been filled in. You'll have to be extra sleuthy this time around to deduce the truth. Pay close attention to what you find, and be sure to look into loose ends. We've got starred people again. Possible infidelity 3, 1975 to 1982. How many affairs did you have? Family tree update. 1998. So we've got 1 chain, 2 chain, 1 big chain, and an update. Let's overlook. Today, August 3rd, 1999, there was a knock at your door. Clark Rafferty LaRue, the current president of the Roottrees Candy Company, explained that multiple people have come out of the woodwork to claim to be roottrees. He has been trying to work with Sam, but she has not answered his calls. He also handed you a letter that he said you could share with Sam that said the following. To both of you. The company I hired to help us with the Clancy Trust is busy pouring through the entire family's history, as well as people they may have had contact with. That said, the family is not particularly happy with this, and are doing their best to slow things down. Many of them are actively avoiding our interviews. Every time there's a high-profile public case, it causes headaches. So please, I don't mind if you do your research, but I ask that you stop going to the press. Instead, we have a highly trained team of lawyers to back you up. We're ready and willing to verify anyone and everyone you believe could be realistically part of a relationship that led to the birth of a new root tree. Just tell us who to investigate by filling in the new sections of the tree, and we'll take the time to handle verifying that the timeline checks out. But keep in mind why we're here. If someone didn't have a child, or has already been disqualified by our lawyers, like in the case of the girl with... Bit of Bandito raided me with a party of 2. Thanks. I don't know if you know this game. We had 6, but only 2 came. I don't know why of all the people you've chosen me, but this is... The root trees are dead, and this is like the mystery after the mystery. I would rather you not get spoiled, because it's really good. So this is like part 2. Okay. Maybe you could find some tips from me. Last time I didn't do so well. I had to use the duck loads. So I'm trying to be extra methodical with it this time. Yeah. It probably would have taken much longer if I hadn't asked the duck. But look, duck. You. I will not need your help as much. I will probably need it occasionally, but I'm gonna keep count. If it goes over like 10, then I'm gonna be annoyed with myself. And I'm reading this aloud, so I'm reading all of it. The interesting thing that I found here, I'm going to give me a hand. Yeah, there was one Urahara who was in the previous stream who gave me a couple pushes along. Let me put an unsorted page here, like in the case of the girl with the negative DNA test. If someone didn't have a child or has already been disqualified, she is going to show up, and I need to remember that she has been mentioned here because she's going to show up. There won't be a place for them on the tree. I'll just copy this. We're not just looking for affairs and infidelities, we're only looking for the ones that led to potential new root trees. Some spots in the new tree will be marked with a tree icon. Those areas are reserved for members of the original family tree you filled in 8 months ago. Just like last time, be sure to use birth names for everyone you add. Married names or nicknames won't be enough. To start sorting out the infidelities, I recommend you turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I'd love to say that's only because it would have been a lot harder for the women to hide 9 months of pregnancy and birth without the family noticing. But I can't. Turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I'll be blunt, I'm no stranger to infidelity. I wish I could claim that I was a perfect husband, but you've seen the family tree, so why pretend? Some of us learned how to wield our family name and fortune to our benefit. Consequences be damned. I can't change the past or unhurt those whose I betrayed. Instead, all I can do is be honest with myself and to you. I refuse to make any more mistakes and do my best to sort out the various messes we've left. Together we can figure out how to begin to make amends. Good luck, and thank you both. I am no stranger to fidelity. That makes sense, because Clark is this one, who divorced Jane, Kim. That checks out, and I need to be very vigilant when it comes to making sure things check out this time. Previously on The Root Trees Are Dead. This is a new investigation with a new focus, after many months of newfound interest in the root trees. It is recommended you try to catch up with some of what happened since last time. Some web searches may yield new or different results, and some books and magazines from your previous investigation may be relevant to your new one. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of first and last names you can choose from will contain red herrings. Not all of them will be used. is a reminder to some of the most notable beats of your initial dive. All evidence from before is still available, and, for your convenience, any searches that do not lead to new information still function as they did during your first investigation. Archived evidence. Okay. That's all still there. I hope I don't have to sift through that for anything that might be relevant nowadays. The Roottree Candy Company was founded by Elias and Gwyneth many years ago. The entire family has a financial reliance on the health of that company. Butler County, Pennsylvania, where the company was initially located, Elias, Carl, and Raina were on the cover of magazines. That's correct. Elias and Carl on the Businessman magazine, and Raina on the cover of the Teen Blast? She was on the cover of Teen Blast. Was there anyone else? Not that I can remember. Other notable Roottrees such as Lauren, Miracle, and Jim had physical media such as record albums, books, and movies associated with them. Record albums here relates to Jim. Books to Lauren. Movies I would more imagine ties to Gwyn, but Miracle is here. Miracle Roottree had physical media such as record albums, books, and movies associated with them. I'm pretty sure Miracle's second is a televangelist, but I know Miracle was also a preacher. I will keep this noted. And I will highlight that. Lauren's two diaries were probably the most useful resources overall, mentioning many of her relatives directly. True. The 5 pieces, Elias's children, could be identified based on the initials of the original candy flavors. Yes, before Miracle was born. And Edward Clancy was brushed away. There were 5 presidents of the Roottree Company. Many were featured in periodicals. Now there's a 6th. I wonder if that's been updated. He's still called advertising, but nowadays Clark Rafferty is the 6th president. Carolyn Morden, Stephanie Jones, and Brian Jones were featured in campaign posters and led to Carolyn's art book, which are now enabled you to fill out more of the tree. Carolyn Morden. Carolyn is the mother of Stephanie. Yeah, Carolyn is the mother of Stephanie, and where would... Let me verify this. Carolyn, Stephanie, and Brian were featured in campaign posters. Stephanie and Brian were. Carolyn by proxy, not in the poster, but if I go back to the campaign mailer, there is a handwritten note. It has a handwritten note attached that seemed personal. Luckily, I think this time I know a lot of people's faces. I know what people look like, which I think is helpful, especially connecting them to the ones that are on the tree. Out of curiosity, how many names do I have? I've got quite a lot of names, haven't I? Let's say there's about 50. That's probably also about 50. 60 times 50? A lot? There's no brute forcing it this time, clearly. Many of the younger root trees were found by following a complex rabbit hole through a conspiracy site that led to finding a searchable web address for Chris Rafferty, Lauren's grandson, Chris Raff 75. That's something I should probably remember. If I ever want to search up Chris Rafferty, then I can. November root tree was really difficult to place. The only hint was found via Brian Jones' company website. That's correct. Who was November? Your November, yeah. Ronald and his brother Robert Roottree go by Ron and Robbie. Both worked on a TV show called Brother Trouble until Robbie embezzled money and flew to Paris. Ron unsuccessfully tried to have Robbie removed from the Clunsted Trust. That was correct. That was Roottree Candy Company versus RR trial. Sam and her father were cryptically mentioned in a book about historical letters. Yes. There were also a few dead ends and red herrings. Aloysius Herring Roottree, who claimed he was a root tree, but was not. That may come back to bite me. Aloysius is not a valid first name. No, it cannot physically be Aloysius. I do not need to think about him. But if one says, oh, I do not need to think about him, then, and I do, then, I mean, I've already planted the first nail in the coffin. Family Man, a book about Elias Roottree, turned out to be propaganda, and not useful. I thought Family Man was lost media. Let me verify that. Internet. Family Man, Family Man. Public Library. Who authored Family Man? See? It's impossible to find a copy of the book these days. It was a very poorly received book about Elias Roottree. There are very few copies of the original, but it was recently republished by the same publishers company that printed Lauren's diary for schools. It seemed they wished to capitalize on Roottree mania. It did not work. What does this mean? Turned out to be propaganda and not useful. This is Family Man by Bess Williams. A reprinting of an old book about Elias Roottree. During your first search, this book had a picture of the farm on the cover. This version includes a portrait of Elias. That's a picture I already have. It's just an identical picture to this portrait of Elias. Just grayscale, probably nabbed from the same location. That's interesting. I need to write this down. It was recently republished by the same... If I'm correct, printed Lauren's diary for schools. That's curious. Lauren's school-bound publishing. Look at that. I never thought about that. I never noticed it. School-bound. School-bound. Yeah. Nothing relevant to your investigation was found for school-bound publishing. Really? What about the second one? Returns nothing from search. Is that the best way to put it? I guess. The same publishing company that printed Lauren's diary for schools. Let me refocus on this. Lauren's other books, historical romance novels, were not very useful on their own, though could lead to other information. Let me create a page. On Lauren. Root Lauren. I will type it out as... Come on, mouse. Carolyn Morden's sculptures were not useful. I hope I don't have to think about them later. Notable events start here. Today, so this is how the story has gone so far. Today is August 3rd, 1999. It has been 8 months since you helped Sam Madsen with the research necessary for her book. Sam was true to her word and paid you an incredibly large sum of money. She never mentioned you by name, however, so you've managed to keep a low profile. The roottrees, on the other hand, have not. Below is a summary of notable events since the book's release, though you can refresh your memory in full detail by searching online. There is something I should be immediately searching up, which is Madsen's book. Six pieces. The Roottree Rift. In March, the Roottree Company stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the book's release, with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. in March, the Rootree Company stumbled publicly. Respond. I'll just copy the whole thing, because I hope I will be able to look that up eventually. Clark was announced to be the permanent successor to Carl Rootree, and welcomed Sam Madsen to the family officially. The company hired an outside legal group to handle the changes to the Clancy Trust. This included any other new questions of lineage. An outside legal group, that's right, that's the lawyers. Clark. Clark was announced as the permanent successor to Carl Rootree, and welcomed Sam Madsen to the family officially. The company hired an outside legal group to handle the changes to the Clancy Trust. This included... I wonder if that outside legal group is going to be important. Outside legal group. I'm adding it to the list. After this announcement, there was a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, mostly dismissed as opportunists and scammers. The highest profile of these, by a wide margin, changed his monitor to 5Ps as a publicity move at the same time. 5Ps is the only notable person on the updated tree. In another high-profile misstep, Miracle Rootree publicly and vehemently denied that 5Ps was a Rootree. The Rootree's legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get 5Ps to drop his claim, and the test proved he was a Rootree. The Rootree's legal team offered to do a DNA test. Yeah. I'll also include this in here as well. I can't? That can only go in one place at once? No. No? That can only go in one place at once. Okay. I will put it in Miracle Rootree's zone, because Miracle was the instigator. Anonymom and Jane Doe Rootree. An anonymous woman, who the press began to refer to as Anonymom, appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised. She claimed that an affair with a Rootree led to the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Rootree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Rootree. Anonymom. Which I'll put here. As more and more of Anonymom's story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5Ps in nearly every significant way. Confirming the world's suspicions, the DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations of the entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or attempt at fraud. Things got a bit ugly, and the fun of Rootree mania seemed to disappear overnight. Now, 2 months later, it feels like a distant memory. Well, 5Ps is absolutely a root tree, and he's the notable one. This is 5Ps. Felix Fellows. Rapper. Let my mouse move, please. Rapper. Musician. Let's find the guy. 5Ps. Is a rapper who has found some recent radio play after being publicly confirmed a long-lost root tree and entitled to part of them. An article you find on a website known for their particularly harsh reviews of modern music gives his most recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7 for whatever reason, with the headline, "More poser than my action figure collection." The review mentions his real name is David, and he used to go by Dirty Davy. And the author rues the fact that this rebranding was blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. That this rebranding to Felix Fellows or Dirty, blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. Apparently, only one of the songs on the album is new, and the others were simply rewritten to turn blatant references to sex, drugs, and violence into clumsy euphemisms. His rise to prominence was kick-started when he appeared a few months ago holding a photo of his mother with Guy Hudson. But since then, they've backtracked and publicly welcomed him to the family. Their press release at the time stated that they had new evidence that confirmed this story. David Fellows? David... Should I be calling you David? What is the requirement here? There's not one? There's no lock-in, or maybe there's just, you get one right, you lock it in. Oh, there's, actually no, there's four, like last time. Root of all evil. According to various sources, the album is mostly material that 5Ps recorded for his mixtapes before it became memorable, but re-recorded with lyrical differences and professional production. Announced he'd retained the infamous celebrity lawyer At first, the single didn't make much of a splash, but Whitlock, known for publicity stunts, paid thousands of teenagers a few dollars an hour to call and request the video on MTV, which increased its profile. MTV eventually caught on and banned the video altogether, which in turn received national news coverage and made the song more popular. Let's make a page for Wit Stevie. Dirty Davy. birth name was David Fellows. Dirty Davy was Five Piece's previous stage name. He used to sell records and perform live shows in Portland under that name. There are some people selling his old mixtapes on auction shites. One is apparently called Dirty Devil and another Dirt Poor. I'll add that to the list. David Fellows. Yes, musician. I just need a picture of him. The cover of News Time. News Time is a major news periodical that releases a new issue every week. Miracle Root Tree did the same. So now I have periodical News Time and I can type in 5Ps. So now, Felix Fellows. Old Miracle. Is this OG Miracle, really? Huh. Let's put the pictures in. Felix Fellows. Davy Fellows. David. The article concerns his insistence that his father was Guy Hudson. The story was dramatic and sensational. Proved that he was related to Guy Hudson. And we've got a picture of Guy, he's right there. And Guy was here, third president. Five Ps says that his mother Joanna, I'm guessing Joanna Fellows, divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Felix and his mother then moved to Portland. He grew up with her until he was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store. They found her dead from an overdose in her car. Heroin. As Felix went through her belongings, the only thing... were a hairbrush she always used. Love letters and photos, as well as a letter from his father containing threats. He threw it all away, with the exception of the one photo he appears with on the cover of News Times. News Time. He says it was the only one they were dressed. The magazine also includes some additional history about Five Piece's career. He was born Felix Fellows to Riley and Joanna Fellows. Well, he wasn't born Felix. I know he was born Davy. Riley Fellows and Joanna Fellows. Who's this? Where was I looking? Here. He tried to find a success by opening for other artists and even by selling CDs on street corners in Portland. The writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work as a secretary sometime during the early 70s. Let's... Oh, I have too many pages. What a shame. How am I going to organize my information now? If I can't have a page on everybody. Okay, I guess I'll just lump it all into the unsorted section. Felix went into foster care. They weren't able to track down his father. They also reached out to the... stupid mouse. Rotary Company, but at the moment the company's blanket statement was false. None have been factual. Secretary. That's 3. Surely we just need one more. Who's Miracle? Miracle Rotary. Charlatans and thieves. Can I add that to here? No, I can't. This is Miracle 1, right? The one who was alive in like the 1900s. He must be ancient now. Mouse gets more hopeless by the day. Miracle Senior. Miracle doesn't focus much on the details of Five Piece's accusations regarding his mother and Guy Hudson. Instead, he comes across as exhausted at the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the character of those he feels. He says that although most of the book is based on fact, that Sam's family was not destitute, and that really it was only her son who chose to take on a job with no salary. That's referring to Ernest Madsen. He claims that though they didn't have to, the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting that it was the right thing to do. Miracle also says that the story about his father, Elias, shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Miracle then pivots to the fallout from the Six Pieces. He recounts a deluge of claims to the Clancy Trust that the family haven't been subjected to. He doesn't cite any specifics, but says that every time someone comes forward, the family devolves to arguments. They've had to hire an outside legal team to help, but so far every case has been demonstrably, laughably false. A grifter and a delinquent, and he says he is using their name and products to sell filth to the masses. Miracle states that those that wish to hear the true story, his farewell tour. 71. Quote, oldest living root tree. If that's true, then you must be dead, and maybe even you. Because you may have been older than Miracle. I can't quite remember. The article mentions that Miracle Jr. did not wish to comment and has a statement from Clark Rafferty LaRue through the roottrees law firm. Miracle does not speak for his entire family. Yeah, the article also does not refute, despite Sam Madsen being born the year before him. It was unclear if Miracle made the claim out of ignorance or spite. Okay. And this picture. At a company picnic. Roottree family picnic. Let's take a look at his farewell tour closer. Let's look up this Anonymum. Will I be able to find her by doing this? Of a potential new root tree being added to the Clancy Trust. Instead of claiming herself a root tree, however, she claimed she'd slept with Guy and that her daughter was a root tree. The accusation came during the height of root tree mania. Sam Madsen publicly supported Anonymum due to some parts of the story she found particularly credible. As more details came out, her accusation even included many of the same details. This included her job and the time period. DNA test proved that Anonymum's daughter could not be related to the Roottrees. This was announced at a joint press conference with lawyers representing both Anonymum and the Roottrees. After the negative results were released, many of those who had already been skeptical felt vindicated. Others who had built up hope that history could repeat itself after 5Ps felt duped. Duped, I say. Ow. Though it was scientifically proven that Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, that doesn't mean that her mother and Guy Hudson were not involved in an affair. She has every right to make her claim, as it has been verified that her stories about Guy Hudson were not exaggerations. But there is no Roottree. There could be another. Jane Doe Roottree may not be the son of Guy, but there may be another from an actual affair. I would find this in news time as well, periodicals. An anonymous woman appearing on the cover of News Time holding a picture of her daughter, the first and only mention of the frame anonymum, came the week after. The anonymous woman claimed to have had an affair with Guy Hudson while she was working as his secretary. She and another woman were hired at the same time during a transition period while many of the secretaries. She says that she and the other woman were both underqualified as neither had typewriter experience. Through lavish parties, and the longer he was president, the more excuses he found. The anonymous woman posits that these parties mostly seemed... The article presented no tangible evidence of the anonymous woman's time at Roottree, and all of the payments are allegedly made in cash. However, using details that she provided to News Time, the reporters were able to reach out to the other woman hired at the same time. They successfully fact-checked the timeline of both women and confirmed the existence of the infamous after-parties. Who do I even focus on now? Who do I even focus on now? Family Tree Update 1998. There is a new child, I guess. This photo was on Chris Rafferty's website. According to Chris, it's a photo of him, his father, and Guy. While they were distracted, he snuck into the supply of chocolate they kept for the visitors and tours. Chris Rafferty did not know who the woman in the photo was. That was probably a secretary. Whether it was her or another secretary, I'm not sure. She looks to be a medic. Let's read this. Yes, but I didn't grow up with him. I remember him from when I was a little kid, but I moved away with my mum when I was very young. We left Pennsylvania and moved back home to Virginia. We lived there with Pete, my stepdad. My dad and I spoke a few times when I found his phone number on a check. I don't remember people like Guy Hudson and Annie Madsen. Sam Madson's book, 6 Pieces. Sam Madson. Details the truth about Elias as well as Sam's fathers, Edward Clancy Roottree and John Miller. You helped verify her story, so much of the book's core contents are familiar to you. Sam had some sections on other family secrets and rumours. Much of it didn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it is new to you and may be important to your new section. Search. Sam's book has a few different passages about her own history with the company and the rumours and gossip she collected during that tenure. She ran the farm from a period starting around 1968 after the death of Elias until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 1984. Most of the relevant rumours coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson, who took over as president. Sam was very much not a fan of Guy. According to the 6 Pieces, it was an open secret within the family that Guy was very much not a fan of remaining faithful to his wife, Patricia. Many of the hires at that time were young single women, and there were parties, yes. This was 20 years ago, and Sam warns that most of it is hearsay. One of Sam's farm supervisors was named Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a daughter, who Sam never met, but who worked as one of the caterers from a local restaurant called Antonelli's. I will look up Antonelli's. Here. As a periodical in the Butler County Times. Rochelle Zimmer. Did I spell it right? Oh, silly, that's not how you spell Rochelle. Rochelle, correct. Many years before that, there's a puff piece of Valentine's Day 1978. Christine Garland responded. She and her husband Steve, who was a chef at Antonelli's, met years ago from her mother's farm. Christine Garland, from her mother's farm. I don't think I know that. She and her husband Steve, who was chef at Antonelli's, met years ago. Although they grew apart, Christine Garland, Steve Garland. The first was an article about how he met his wife Christine. The second is from Gourmet for the Groovy. The third was from 1991. Local author sued by former... It seems that a local author by the name of Mark Zimmer was sued by Garland after Garland saw Zimmer promoting his book Kitchen Tales on television. Mark Zimmer, related to the other Zimmer? The owner Rochelle Zimmer. Mark Zimmer. Kitchen Tales. One book collector states that the publishers were unprepared for the demand, so that there was no second printing. You find an alternative medicine website. Focuses on cooking and natural ingredients. Let me go to here and out of print. Garnishing the Truth. Oh, it's the wrong place. Mark Zimmer. Mark Zimmer's Kitchen Tales. Garnishing the Truth. Garland and Zimmer. According to a book review, the recipes are accompanied by stories. There it is. The introduction of this book is a series of acknowledgements from Steve. The first is, Christine, thank you for everything. Your support means the world to me. You are the apple of my pie. The second is to James and Robert. You're becoming amazing men and incredible chefs. I guess I'm a good teacher. I first met Steve in 1978 when he taught a cooking class. The next time I saw him was over a decade later when he was suing me for stealing his recipes. We settled it at McCarran's Brew House. He and I agreed we'd both rather make a ton of money together. It's pretty rare. McCarran's Brew House. It's a pub in Boston. Garnishing the Truth, which the site has this to say about. Local and regular Stevie G wrote a book about food. We prefer cocktails, but he gave us a shout out, and we ain't gonna say no to free press. A kid's joint Friday. What is this trail? A plaited loaf. That is not a face. Whoever runs the page. Chef's Signature. Probably another periodical. Yeah. Friday. Samosa Cone. What was the original restaurant? Called History. Antonelli's. Can a vegetarian diet be trendy? Chef's Signature, featuring James and Robert Garland. samosa cone. Robert is younger than James. James answers most of the interview's questions. Wrote a book. My father was a chef and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. I don't have any memories from the farm or anything like that. Sistine apple. But it's secretly named after them. Sort of. Because her name is Christine. Right. So who could this be? These two? They would fit. They would fit there. James is older, so if this is James Garland and he's a chef and he's a this or this, then I'm hoping it gets locked in. Robert Garland, chef, you, other way around. Yes. Booyah. Who's at the door? Hello again.
Has Clark reached out to you? Well, let me give you a short history lesson about the last few months of my life. 3 different people contacted me, claiming that somewhere in their history, they might be root trees. First, that young man, the rapper. I ignored that one. He seemed dubious. But then I saw the news. I felt terrible. So I began helping the others. Because my doubts with Felix were so misfounded, I ended up putting too much faith in the second person that approached me. I went to the media prematurely. I admit my mistake there. But the third person who contacted me also had a credible case. Before I could help, the company got to them somehow. The fact that the family silenced them doesn't seem to fill me with hope when it comes to Clark's intentions. But you're making progress based on the leads he gave you. It's really hard for me to get a read on him. I'll let you handle it. I've sent you the case I've been working on, and some company records I managed to track down. The records are quite dense, but hopefully they're useful. Good luck.
So, this photo was given to you. A woman named Regina, the place in Saskatchewan. I'll say Regina. I'll say Regina. It's just a nicer word to say than Regina. Regina Clementine came to her and claimed that her husband has confessed he thinks he's a root tree. Stuart is the older boy wearing a vest. The woman in the photo is Mary Beth Clementine, a singer who may have had an affair with Miracle. We have company records. We're going to have to start thinking about dates. Oh no! Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding to markets previously untapped by Roottree. You didn't click in. Oh, that's because I probably need to know your maiden name. It was Christine. Christine... someone. And then... where was I looking at that? Oh, probably just here, right? What was your dad called? Where would I find that? Stephen Garland. Christine was a farmer, right? Yeah. If Elias's and Miracle's photo are here, 1921. Yeah. Why are your family trees so complicated? I don't get it. Let's just look through the records. You were given some partial staff records to cross-reference by Sam Madsen. These records are only based old tax mailing information and only detail the employee that worked directly for Roottree or in their corporate office. You're not sure how helpful it would be, except for cross-referencing Guy's secretaries and visits overseas. Spider-searching people just because they're listed in these books will likely be very time-consuming and a waste of your time. It's just for cross-referencing. From 6 pieces at Prodigy to Genealogy Genie at Prodigy. This is all the information I have about Regina Clementine née Salazar from New Orleans and her husband, Stuart Clementine. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently the Roottree lawyer went after her since then. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who was a police officer and never knew his father, told her he thought he might be a Roottree, but he's estranged from his family and didn't want to pursue it because he had no proof. She wrote to me behind his back. Normally I wouldn't be so sure. She had some pretty credible facts. Stuart's mother was named Mary Beth Clementine. She was pretty well known in the 30s and 50s, a singer who went on tour to a lot of churches. You can look her up online. She was a pretty big proponent of adoption. I know for a fact that she came to Butler County a few times. I remember her from when I was a kid, and Regina said that Stuart told her spent a lot of time at the Miracle Church. Please consider saving a tree and not printing this email. Pretty big proponent of adoption. You know. Oh, my mouse is bugging way more than usual today. What was her name? Mary Beth Clementine. Adopted 2 children, Stuart and Mark. She also spoke as an advocate for the benefits of adoption in front of the United States Congress in 1949, who were convening to debate and discuss the then recent first adoption of an African-American child to a white family in the United States. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through the system to adopt Stuart, according to a single line on one adoption site under unusual circumstances. Mary Beth had been twice divorced, both times to her manager Sterling. This ended her career with the religious audience she had been catering to. Passed away in 1994. Once again, the only adoption I see on the list is this. But I'm... That's Stuart. That's Mark. Where would she fit if she had an affair with Miracle? Here? No, not Stuart. Stuart was the son. But this implies... It was... Regina is the husband of... Stuart. I'm confused already. Oh. Just give me a surface level hint. You have unseen evidence. You're correct. Zach was retiring and Guy would take over. Guy Hudson has replaced Ernest Madsen Jr. as special management. Christine Theroux. Was hired, but a Christine Garland has been hired. Joanna Fellows and Beth Knox, no longer employed by Roottree. Joanna Robertson. John Miller is no longer employed. Gwyneth Madsen was hired. Guy Hudson took over. Guy Hudson replaces Zach. Edward Roottree, Elizabeth Cravensworth and Lloyd Carpenter are no longer employed. Rafa Tunes is now listed as office staff. Albert Cross and Fred Cross no longer working for... You spelt it wrong. There's 2 T's. Beatrice Watts and Corinne Schwartz. Juliet McCullen and Doris Mays and Lisa Lewis, Valerie Ewing and travel expenses: Australia, China, France, Brazil. Guy Hudson died. Ernest Madsen Jr. Shigwa X. Alright, Duck. You're correct. Notable events. The Roottree Rift. What was their response to that? The 3 press releases from the Roottree County Company after the release of 6 pieces were referred to as the Roottree Rift. The first was fairly standard. It stated that there was no president of the Roottree Company, but that the entire family was made aware of the book and they would be meeting as soon as possible. Second release, Ron Roottree would be taking over temporarily as an interim president. It also went on to state that Ron was aware of the book, had verified the claims within, and would look into compensating Mrs. Madsen and her family immediately. Ron! Ron? Ron? The criminal? No. Ron the director. Why Ron? How confusing. President of Roottree during the Roottree Rift, but the next press release immediately reversed the announcement, instead saying that Ron and Clark would take over. A few weeks later, Ron was dropped from the title entirely. There are hundreds of results about this development. An article about Ron in Business Watch. Ron's 3 weeks ago, Gwyn died in Paris. He and his brother Robbie have seemingly made amends. Rest in peace, Gwyn. Ron and Business Watch. Business Watch ran an article about 2 months after the Root Tree rift about what really happened with Root Tree. Nobody from Root Tree that they reached out to was willing to go on the record. A timeline of events has been constructed from public record, accidental leaks, and a source on the inside. Timeline says that the family actually held a preliminary vote after Carl Roottree died, but before the release of Six Pieces, and decided they want Ron to take over. But Ron seemed way too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would gut the Clancy Trust to remove Robbie Roottree. The family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that could risk their wealth. They stalled and Ron became frustrated. Six Pieces came out and he saw his chance to force action when the family was in the limelight and released the press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling faster. He tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as co-president, but according to Business Watchers, yeah, it sure is. I don't have the brain or organizational skills to get through this without asking the duck for help. But I feel cool doing it. Yeah. If you want to like actually play this game, you may not want to watch this because this is like part 2 and I don't want you to be spoiled because it's one of those games that when you know it, you know it. It came out like 2 days ago. I had it on my wish list. Ron... The role passed solely to Clark, who nobody was excited about but seemed like the safest choice. The Sexy Brutal was similar in that regard. So, I never play it but suggest it to friends. I never heard of that. Let's look up Clark Roottree. Okay. Yeah? Right. There's probably something there that I haven't looked at. Roottree Mania? I mean, I did sort of look that up. Trigger new printings of other Roottree related media. Lawrence Diaries. Lawrence Diaries? VHS releases of Gwyn's old movies, as well as countless other unauthorized biographies. VHS releases of Gwyn's old movies. Right. Gwyn's old movies. I might be able to find them. Yeah. It's just been changed to was, like it's a Wikipedia article. Guys Like Us was her biggest role. Pneumonia, 67. there have been talks of a remake. Yeah, I thought so. RR would be making the remake. Movie news. Cameron Diaz. Linda Fiorentino. According to leaked news, the remake has been put on indefinite hiatus due to its director, who is speculated to be Ron, a serious medical issue. No, I think he's just, you know, going over that whole root tree thing. Okay. I'm told about Cameron Diaz. These are like real people. They're not there. Indefinite hiatus. Only a rumor. You know where you would find rumors like that? You would find them in starlets, right? Oh. Hey Duck, do you have anything to say? Talk about Clans of Trust. Has any updates happened there? Heavy scrutiny. Sam, her children and her grandchildren would have all been covered under the trust, according to the wording revealed during an internal family conflict between Ron and Robbie. He ensured Sam would get their share. To help facilitate this, control of a third party, Ruby Legal Enterprises. Now, let me check. Oh no, her name was Jane. If there was a diamond, a jade, and a ruby, that would be pretty funny, huh? But there could still be a Ruby LaRue. The financial motivations of root tree family members will not interfere with the investigations into potential new root trees. Ruby Legal Enterprises. I'm not writing anything down. I'm just going through the methods. Ruby Spratt. Sicily? Sicily? Let's look up Ruby Spratt. Magazine owned by a major airline, Mid-Eastern University. She was born in Portland. Sicily? I don't know how to pronounce that word. Piketty? Right for Guy Hudson. Right. Yeah. Let's look up Guy Hudson in this thingamajig. Cancelled book. Basil Bob? The magazine was pulled from shelves, and the version you found in your periodical search of the relevant pages removed, rendering this magazine useless. Useless? Useless? It's got 8 clues. It's not what I need to be looking at. Yeah, who's running Root now? Can I learn anything from this? Root. Who runs Root? Brenda White's second in command. She seems unrelated to your search. It's managed by Ruby Legal. You're correct. What was that song? You're so right. What the hell? All your problems. I never thought about that. I highlighted it. I guess I just don't care anymore. The only new song on the album.
Attention, roottrees. This is 5 people coming at you from the real
It's so
world.
long.
You know, the place you ain't ever lived in.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Root of all your
Man, y'all are hypocrites, sitting back in your massive estates, built from the cash that your ancestors gave you, acting like you somehow deserve it, based on your family's creations. Yo,
But look at here, sonny, don't you come for our money, or you might burn bright in hellfire someday, like that Madsen chick.
and her two dads. My pappy's cleansing trust should keep you away. Yo, it's disturbing, catching a sermon from a geezer who's never known hurt, but blurts out these claims that somehow we're sinners, cause we didn't earn it. When all of your work that came free with your name, you expect me to treat your lectures on greed as some expert creed from he without blame. How about instead, I turn my other cheeks and spread them. When you give me a kiss, you'll know just where to aim.
You say money is the root of all your problems. Let me take those problems away.
Whoever calls dollars the root of all evil, just trying to make small pursuits of real people. You silver spoon feeds, you the world's purest treacle, while real world folks burn their spoons with a needle. So once more,
Right, so why am I listening to this?
your mansions and Porsches are actually horrible.
I'm better off penniless.
Yeah. You're correct. See, look at me. I'm relying on the duck. I'm addicted to this duck. Addicted? No! What do you mean? Carolyn Morton. Oh, right. Carolyn's art book. What is she doing at the moment? The television. Okay. Now I can look at this, I guess. I never really fit into the family, so it didn't surprise me. She could have put me in if she wanted to talk about the time during my activism days when I almost got arrested for stealing spark plugs out of all the tractors, but I don't really think it fit her narrative. They never tried to kick me out, or send me to live on a farm, if that's what you mean. But I was already pretty unpopular, and once everyone learned why I divorced my husband, my people paid me any attention. It's my wife, not legally, but we've been together for half our lives. Call it what it is. I was 20 and I just had my daughter. I hate to look back on that time because I was a terrible mother the first few years. I left my daughter with my ex-husband and followed Guy on a private jet to Europe. He lost a tooth and a client. I found love and a better understanding of who I was. Still, in our family's eyes, his trip was somehow more acceptable. Explain that. No, I couldn't stand him. Our family wrote off his behaviour like he was some huge fan of romance or women, but he didn't like the entire woman. It was doubly awkward for me because he was more supportive than most. Slowly figured out it was because he assumed I would be as shallow as he was. He was a workaholic. He seemed nice enough and did a good job. I didn't know him well. That was one of Sam's problems with our family. None of us did except Carl. Looks like I get why she's pissed. I'd rather not speak ill of the dead, not unless you want more stories about Guy. With Carl, though, all I can say is we used to be friends before they sent him to private school. He came back a lot judgier. It made sense why they made him president. He was a lot like my father, and after they disciplined the fun out of him. After I started protesting the farms, he stopped returning my calls. Remind me, Carolyn Morden? Yeah, Zach Morden. Oh well, he's hard to label. When I was a teenager, he was basically drunk or high or both, all the time. He actually used to sell me pot. His problems with women were different than Guy's, but he never really judged me. I guess he knew it would be pretty hypocritical to judge anyone for anything. Back then he was destructively unreliable in every way, but nowadays he's just kind of boring and old. I prefer that to how he used to be, and to Guy and Carl, but it's still a cautionary tale. I hope I'm never that boring and old. Ah, stupid duck. My brain is fried. I should probably just, have a break. Have you considered this? Have you considered having a break? Have you tried having a break? Have you tried having a break?